see. COVID style. Wait, you're muted. Today I'm joined by a very special guest. The Bones. I did have you muted. That's why.
Yeah.
Hello, the Bones.
Hi. Oh, that's sweet. Yo, I did not know she had all these buttons.
Right? We just coming through with all
Yo,
of
why
them.
is it that we were about to talk, like, getting ready to go on this, and I was, like, super anxious, but now that it started, I'm like,
Yeah,
we're
I kind
already
of
here,
feel
you
that.
might as well just talk about it.
I kind of feel that. So today's episode, I decided is going to be about anxiety because I've been feeling a lot of it recently. And I figured let's just go through the whole process, how it feels, like what we do with it, where it came from, all that stuff. So I'm going to start out. To me, anxiety feels like evil butterflies is a good way of explaining it. Like anybody who has experienced butterflies, that little flutter in your stomach, like turn it into a bowling ball or like give it knives for wings.
Exactly.
And that's anxiety.
I was about to say that, like someone's punching you in the stomach.
Yeah, like it's very much, I've also described it like feeling like you have to take a massive shit.
I don't know
But
what that feels like. Mine's the opposite. It's like it goes the other way. It's like, oh shoot, I got vomit.
yeah,
Right now.
that's very true. How does anxiety show up for you?
It just depends on what the circumstances are. Like I can give you an example of, well, going back to school has caused me a lot of anxiety, especially because I didn't have a good first year. I mean, there were some good things about it, but for the most part, it was shit. Don't recommend. But
COVID episode.
we back. I tried to hack, but yeah, I can feel it. It's like comes in stages. It's actually it mostly starts in my head. It's like the way Tomas was explaining it is everything kind of just goes like foggy, and I can like almost like I can't hear anything but my own thoughts, and it's like my own heartbeat, my own breath. It's like I get super tunnel visioned in on like what's going on inside my body. And it usually starts, like I said, with that, and then it creeps. If it gets worse, if I'm not able to get it under control, once my breathing gets irregular and my heartbeat picks up, I'm like, oh, we're in it for the long run, baby. And then that's when the stomach starts. That's when it's like, especially if it's like creeping up on like an event. Let's say like a surgery. When I first found out, I was like, oh, shit, I'm a little anxious, right? But I was able to kind of like put it off.
Mm-hmm.
But then it was like, oh, we're creeping closer. Like, hey, don't forget about me. And then like day of, I'm just like throwing up. I'm just
Ball of anxiety.
Like, oh, crap. I'm so worried about what's going to come after.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird because it's like the come down almost lasts. But it also is like, I feel like there's different forms how it comes in.
Yeah. No, I totally get you because as you were explaining that, I was thinking about like another way that it shows up for me. Like I get anxious just having a regular everyday conversation with somebody because I put a lot of pressure on how the conversation goes, both like how I show up in the conversation and like how the other person does. And it's like I get super sweaty. I get all of the symptoms of adrenaline, like super sweaty, super shaky.
Oh, yeah, I know.
It literally has to process through my body.
Yes.
Yeah, like my body has to go through this thing. Like I can't avoid it. So yeah, it's just.
Yeah, the tremors are ones I feel bad. Like especially I feel like it might be connected to the nerve damage in my legs, but if I'm like, depending on how it shows up in a sense of like my survival comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm like in a survival mode, but I don't know where's the threat? What do I need to be doing? How do I get out of this situation? It's like my body doesn't know how to react because it wants to just go, go, go. Let's get the fuck out.
No,
right?
I feel you.
And then like my legs just start like shaking really bad, where it's like tremors that I can't stop. And it's usually on my left leg only. So that's what leads me to think that could be linked. I think like everyone experiences tremors, but I feel like the muscle spasm I get in my back and my legs is almost like oh my, we're not used to this amount of like contracting in the muscles, the blood flowing, the shock of like, we need to like survive.
The adrenaline
like
rush.
Because even though the nerves don't work naturally, I feel like you get that that rush, that adrenaline rush. I forget what it like. Is it dopamine? What's the adrenaline? Like it's your blood will, no matter what, if they work or not, just flood into your wherever it needs to go. And so yeah,
I was gonna say that it's not just you. The leg part, I haven't ever experienced it like locally into like just one area, but I very much get it in like my jaw. Like I literally have to like put my tongue out between my teeth to keep my jaw from like or like just clenching it as hard as I can. Like it's
emotional flashbacks are another one that are like a completely different form of anxiety I didn't know about. I can tell. Well, I knew that they happened a lot, but I didn't know that's what they were until I started to work it through with my therapist.
Right.
Especially because it's like, it's so much different versus like if I'm in a state of survival, it's like I'm coming out of it so fast. It's after the come down is a lot faster. Maybe the next few days I'm going to be feeling a little down. Yeah. Versus like an emotional flashback.
Maybe it's because the peak is so much like when it's from like everyday anxiety, it's like the climax happens and then you can come down from it. But whereas like when it's something that can be long term, like a flashback, like that's not ending anytime soon. And there's no resolution inside for that feeling.
Especially because I didn't understand that like when I was having an emotional flashback, I got the symptoms to go away, but I didn't realize the mental side of things, where it was like a few days where I still was kind of feeling scared or on edge or just anxious about whatever it may have caused the flashback. And even if I'm not in danger, it's like my body, I'm not having that full adrenaline rush, but my body is almost going through the process of like, still you need to be cautious type thing.
Yeah.
And like be scared. And like, it's a way different feeling because it's almost like emotional flashbacks are weird because when I'm in a state of survival, like if someone comes on to me too fast, it's like I know I have control over the situation, or at least to protect myself and get out. But in a flashback, it feels so like helpless.
Yeah, the thoughts are the one that
exactly.
has the control.
It's exactly. You feel helpless. You feel lost. Like you don't know what to do. Like it's almost like your inner child comes out, and that's the only thoughts you have. Like I might be 19 now, but I'm not even thinking like a 19-year-old. I'm thinking about my 5-year-old self who was getting hurt.
Yeah,
and I'm back in that headspace of like, I don't know what to do, but I've lived 19 years now and I have the tools. I just you forget about them in these flashbacks because you're remembering. It's almost like the pain. I can always feel the pain of what it was like the first time in the flashback, and that's what I don't like about it.
Yeah, that's rough.
I don't know if you've ever experienced them, but if you have, where and how do you deal with it?
I mean, mine, I haven't really had a lot of flashbacks. I've definitely had ruminations, which I kind of imagine being somewhat of the same thing, because it's like I get stuck in this thought pattern like I got into a nihilistic thought pattern where it's like when one thing starts going wrong, like
everything
I'm automatically back into this like anxious, Well,
why should I try? Because everything's just fucked now.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
There's no reason to keep going.
That would be like the flashbacks for me. Is just like a deep rumination on like something that happened in the past that causes like physical feelings in the now.
Exactly. I don't get too much like mental flashbacks per se. I mean, actually, that's not true. I'm literally, there's nothing even happening with this girl I'm talking to right now. We're just friends. And I'm freaking out on the inside, just getting like, you shouldn't even be friends with this girl type of memories or thoughts and feelings. And it's like, you almost don't have control, but you do. It's like my brain's telling me all the reasons why. And it's just like you said, the nihilistic memories, the bad memories of what's happened with women in the past and why. But I never think about all the good that has come from trusting women or trying to rebuild my relationships with women.
Right.
So that's where I'm at now. Like you said, it's just like you can't get out of it.
I feel like that's a good way to kind of transition into where we both started having anxiety. Again, I'll start off. The first time that I can actually recall the physical sensations of anxiety were in junior high. I used to walk over to Walmart with a couple of my friends that I had, and we would drink like the giant like Twist Top Monster energy drinks. We would each like crush one by ourselves. And I would just like
about that.
I would just sit there shaking my leg, like trying to like release some of the like anxious energy that I had. And at that time, it was an enjoyable feeling.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I don't know why I had such a fondness towards the feeling of anxiety, but I can remember it starting there because it wasn't like I would think of it as getting high.
Exactly. It's something like
I was high on caffeine, and like the anxiety was the after effect of it. And so just like the whole thing together. And like from there, I got a lot more anxiety because the relationship I had with those people I used to walk to Walmart with like fell apart, and then they started bullying me. And then like all the time I had anxiety. And I used to meet up with this guy. Oh my God, it was so sad to me that I did this, but like just trying to feel something. Like I was in that point in my life where
I did the exact same thing.
I was just trying to feel something, and so I'd put myself into these like less than optimal situations and get something out of it, you know? Like I would go and have like barely consensual sexual relations with people just to like get that anxious feeling.
Oh no, I totally get what you mean. I did the exact same thing. It's weird because it's like you almost don't like it in the moment, but it's also at the same time it feels good because you're not feeling every emotion, really. What you're feeling is just like survival, or maybe there's no emotion in survival.
Yeah, it's the main one. Like anxiety, it tops every other emotion, and it's very easily
accessible.
Well, and it's easily like seen as excitement. Like I think you can interchange those because people get anxious about things that they're excited about, and so you can like I think as
I feel
a
like
kid,
that's a way different type of anxiety though.
Yeah, but like as a kid, I like tricked myself, like my subconscious, to receive anxiety like excitement.
Honestly, I did not think about it that way until now, and like almost like I did the exact same thing. I guess I did.
It wasn't like a conscious like choice at that time, but now with the retrospect of being an adult and like being able to look back on my life, it's like, yeah, that's definitely what happened.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So when did you start feeling anxiety? When's the first time that you can recall having anxiety?
I'm not sure. This is a tough question because I don't know. I feel like I've always had anxiety. I just, there's not memories I recall. It's just situations, maybe. I know growing up, going to the doctors when I was younger, it caused me a lot of anxiety because it was like, well, why do my brothers not have to go to the doctors? Obviously something's wrong. I'm going to the doctors. No one else has to go.
Yeah.
What the fuck? And like, so like from early on, that's when I first recall having that first like anxious feeling, especially because I didn't really, it's like I knew I didn't have control over the situations that were happening.
And you don't know if you're going to be getting a shot at the end of that.
Exactly. And like I didn't, like you just don't know. I remember when we were like 4 or 5 maybe, and like I had already routinely been going to the doctors for my earliest, like as a baby, but I didn't remember. My first memory of anxiety is when we had to be kids and go get all those shots. Remember when they'd be like 4?
Yeah.
And it wasn't the pain that was scary for me. It was like the almost like, what the fuck, right? And it was just like I could see my brothers were uncomfortable with this too. Sam was, and I could see him when I was seeing him, it was just making me anxious. But then it was weird because it almost like that's when it just started to become a constant feeling. Was after that, because it was like I was told everything was gonna be okay.
Yeah.
But then this shit happens, and then like shortly after that, when I was in school, I was getting bullied by the kids around me. I was having a hard time making friends early on in elementary school. This is when I lived in Idaho, and I would just hang around with Sam the whole time. But it was like the kids wanted to play with him, but they never wanted to play with me when we were on the toys. So that was like, it was almost like I didn't know it was anxiety at the time.
Yeah.
But it was because I was feeling alone. I knew I felt like crap, but I wasn't like, I just almost like felt like it was normal. I didn't have the words. I didn't have the thought process to it. It was just like, okay, then this is normal. And then when I moved up here, it got worse because I shelled myself almost.
Yeah.
But that's when the real, like my first strong memory of feeling like the truest form of survival anxiety was when I was 5, when I was molested for the first time. And that was when I like very first felt that like true, you're out, this is out of your control. And it was weird because it was after that, that was the type I craved, that survival, that I'm being put into a situation where I don't have control over what the person is doing, and I knew that they wanted to do this and they didn't care if that hurt me. And it was, I don't know, it was a different type of feeling. It was like after that, I just wanted to keep being like that. And like I would put myself in situations with my brother where I would just like, I knew he had anger problems and I knew he would beat my ass if I just did or say anything. But it was like when I would make him angry, I could see it on his face, and then my body would be put into that survival of like, there's no other emotion. It's just like, get out of this fucking situation. Survive, motherfucker. Yeah. It's go time. Shit's got real.
It's weird how like attractive it is.
It is.
For some reason.
I love it.
Like,
that's my favorite feeling.
When you don't like, when you're growing up and you don't have a word to put to what you're feeling, and you don't know like what the feeling is, you know, like it makes it so that you can just keep feeling it. Yes. Like you just keep forcing yourself to fucking feel it.
Well, it's because I knew at the time, like, you weren't feeling anything else. There was no sad. There was no anger. I mean, I was angry. That's what connected me. That's what put me there, is I'd get angry. But other than that, you didn't have to worry about emotion. You don't have to care about what the other person is feeling, right? That's the best feeling, because if there's no emotion and it's just adrenaline, then it's like,
there's no repercussions.
This is better. There's no repercussions. This is a better feeling than feeling scared. This is a better feeling. That's what I chose. I could choose to either be scared in my room that I was going to be hurt again and get my ass beat, or I could choose to just live in this headspace of anger and survival and like holding everyone at arm's length. Yeah. Because that felt better. If I thought everyone was a threat, then they can't hurt me emotionally or physically.
Because you're already ready.
I'm already ready. I'm already ready to run, kill, fight, whatever. Right? Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Now that I'm 19, it's not a fun feeling, because now lately when I've been put in those headspace, it's like my subconscious is starting to bleed into it. Mm-hmm. It's no longer just about survival. Now it's like, wait a minute, what are you doing?
What are the long-term side effects of this? What are the long-term,
what, like, and it's always the negative It's nothing positive, like, hey, you're not in a great headspace. It's okay. It's like, hey, fucker, do you see yourself right now, you piece of shit?
What the fuck are we doing here?
What the fuck are we doing? Again? You put yourself willing in the situation where now you have to survive, and now you have to do something to try and get yourself out of it, and you know you can't just fucking outright kill him. So why'd you do it? Yeah. And then after it all happens, I'm hurt, and I'm hurting on the inside, and I'm like, well, this doesn't feel good. Yeah. Let's start over.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think that the point of time that so when I first started being aware of what anxiety was and the role that it was playing in my life was when I was in therapy. I was like
Ooh.
18 or 19, and my therapist, like, I told him, I was like, I have lived with anxiety so long that I don't know what life without it looks like.
Yep.
And he started giving me tools of like how to deal with it and how to get out of anxiety. And I was like, why would I want that? Why would I want to like be out of anxiety? Like what is in it for me to not be anxious? Like I very much, it was like I don't know. It was better than being numb. Numb sucks.
Numb is awful feeling.
Numb sucks. Like,
I'd rather feel something than nothing.
I would rather feel something than nothing. Like, I almost used anxiety as like.
I had to move the mic. My bad, people.
I almost used anxiety as like a bit of a drug.
Yes.
Like I would just dabble with it whenever I was feeling like uncomfortable.
You're like, let me see what's over here. Let me
Yeah.
just try a little bit. Not all of it. Let me
Yeah.
just take a little.
It was almost like a form of self-harm, if I'm
It really
honest.
was. I feel like it is.
Because it's like a bit of self-sabotage, you know? I really would say that I was addicted to anxiety because when I was given the option to fight it off by like bilateral stimulation or, you know, like mindfulness or meditation, I was like, no.
No thanks.
No, thank you. Yeah. Like I would rather be anxious because at least I knew I would feel something. And I kind of, for some reason, felt like I had some control while I was anxious, which is kind of weird because you don't.
You have no control.
Like you have no control. But I knew what would make me anxious. And I think that's where the control aspect of it came from. Like I could drink some caffeine and get anxious, or I could go hang out with a dude and get anxious, or,
Exactly.
you know, like there's a list of things that I could do.
Yep. Why don't I just sneak out tonight and go put myself in a bad situation?
No, exactly.
Like,
exactly.
go
Like
get the
the
cops
whole
calling
part of
me.
it. And I think that's how it gets mistaken for like excitement a lot of the times too, because it's like this is a thing that kids do, right? Like this is.
But it almost felt different because it was like there was a fear aspect. There was and like that part not always
the
felt,
impending doom.
Exactly. When you're running from the cops and you're just like, oh fuck, if I get caught, I'm fucked. If I get caught, I'm fucked.
See, to me, I never got caught by the cops.
Okay, well,
but
when
I did get caught by parents, and my parents got called. So.
Ooh. Okay, well, like for another one, like you were talking about, like meeting up with a girl, maybe. Even though I knew I was anxious, I was still answering her calls. Hey, come over, sneak out tonight.
Right.
Walking through a
Right.
bad area.
Hey, you up?
Hey, it wasn't even that. It was more like hey, you're coming over tonight.
Right.
And then if I didn't, it was like she got angry. And to be honest, I'd rather have felt scared and anxious about the situation I was in than the emotional distress of someone being angry at me.
Yeah.
Because that's what I saw growing up was just anger. So it was just like, if I can prevent the anger from happening.
I saw a lot of anger too. And I wanted to prevent it.
If you could just stop it. Oh, let me go
but
over.
it's weird because you came out of it with your primary emotion being anger. And I came out of it with my primary emotion being sadness.
Anger always felt better than
I
sad.
did not like what anger did to other people. And that's why I chose sadness.
See, that's where we're the opposites. I liked what anger could do. It was, if I'm angry, then there's no other emotion. And you could do some real damage when you're angry. You can say hurtful things. You can hurt people, but none of it fucking matters. Why? Because you're angry and that's all you're thinking about. And if you're in a survival headspace of like, I need to survive, and now I'm angry, and then now it's like goes hand in hand where like you're just super adrenaline. Now you're like, fuck it.
Yeah, no, that makes
Fuck
sense.
it. It was weird though because I was angry all the time, and I didn't like that necessarily. I didn't like just always being angry no matter what I was doing. I was walking to school, I was in class, I'm fucking angry. I'm just angry.
And anxious.
And anxious. I'm angry and anxious. But it was different because I was like,
You were anxious or like
waiting for harm.
You were anxious, yes, waiting for harm, ready to fucking throw down. I was anxious, like ready to cut myself.
Exactly. It was
Like-
complete. See, I didn't like being hurt necessarily, but like if I knew the outcome would end with, it was weird because it changed because I used to. I knew I'd be emotionally getting damaged by going over and seeing this girl and doing things I didn't really want to do. But what went with my anxiety was sexual arousal. I just figured this out with my therapist.
Yeah.
I just figured this out. It's like when I get really, really anxious, like sometimes I'm just like, I just want to do something to get my knot off. Like, because it almost connected to when I was, that's
no,
the
I
feeling.
kind of feel you on that. No lie.
Like,
it's weird because I've never heard that before, but like,
it's like whenever I had a rough day, I don't know if it's TMI, but like whenever I have like a really bad day or an anxious day or something went wrong, my first initial thought was like, let me just get my knot off real quick and then I'll feel better. But I don't.
no, actually,
And then if I do it, and then after I just feel like shit even more. But it's weird is I never realized how much came with that. Like when I was like when I had my surgeries during COVID and I was in my room all day. What else did I do? I was anxious. I just fucking do everything I can to get my nut off. I had a girlfriend at the time and she didn't want to see me, and that made me angry and upset. And it just like when I got angry and upset, I didn't necessarily want to do anything to her, but it was like, again, it all cycled back to when I was 5 and I was scared of being hurt and I got angry about it, or I was just emotional distress. And it was from an early age when those two connect right away. At 5 years old, when you're put into emotional distress of survival and anger, maybe you're not angry because I didn't know what that feeling was, but survival was pain. And now you're getting sexually abused, and no matter what, you get sexually aroused by the situation. Like even if I didn't want to be there, I still was having all the sexual feelings.
Yeah.
And then it just connected, and now here I am today trying to reverse it.
Right.
That's not necessarily.
And now, like, when you do actually want to have a sexual situation, you have to go through, like,
exactly. You have to go through the steps of, is this just because I'm anxious, or is this because there's something I want to do? But it's weird because it almost is a very shameful feeling to have. It's very shameful when I'm in emotional distress, and my first instinct is to just want to do something sexual, not with anyone in particular, just in general.
In general, just to, like, turn it off.
Exactly. Almost to, like, give me a 4 or 5 second better feeling.
Yeah.
And then after the anxiety's gone, but the shame stays with it.
Yeah.
And that in turn creates more anxiety.
Yeah.
So I chose to live more angry. Like at school, it was like you said, because I felt better knowing if I was just lived angry and held everyone at bay and was just in survival mode, it made me feel better because at least I had control.
Yeah.
If something goes down, I have control. I can hurt you. I can do whatever the fuck I want because I'm angry. There's no emotion. But like versus if I'm sad, I know I'm gonna second guess myself in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm put in a situation where I need to survive and I'm scared or sad, I'm going to almost second guess every single one of my steps.
Which is weird because anxiety is very fear-based. So
it's weird. It's almost like when I get scared, when I'm angry, it's easier to just, the decisions come easier.
Yeah.
I don't know why. When I'm sad, it's like I think about everything bigger picture.
Yeah.
It's the bigger picture. It's like,
you're worried.
What can I do to this person? What is this going to do for myself?
Mm-hmm.
I'm scared. I'm sad right now. I don't really like what it's happening, but I don't know what I can do. Versus when I'm angry, I'm like, I could just fucking gut this dude right now, and I do not give a fuck.
Yeah.
Think about it later. Gut him.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens after.
Yeah, it definitely changes.
And that makes you feel like you have more control.
Yeah.
Having control is all you want when you're anxious.
Yep. I think that anxiety does have a lot to do with control.
It does, because whenever I feel like I can't control something, I'm getting anxious. Whenever I'm trying to, like right now, I'm trying to plan ahead. I'm supposed to hang out with this girl, and I'm already thinking about the things that could go wrong, the things that maybe I might have to do to protect myself, the things I have to do to check in and make sure I'm okay with where I'm going. And we're not even doing anything. We're fucking hiking.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen. It's not even a date. But I'm automatically putting myself in that headspace, and it's like I'm getting anxious because I don't know what's going to happen. I can't control it. I don't get to decide where things go.
Yeah.
I sort of do. I can remove myself from the situation, but I'm almost anticipating for something bad to happen.
Yeah, which probably makes it so the anxiety just has a longer time to build up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's
now you're getting like pre-anxiety.
I'm getting pre-anxiety right now fucking thinking about it.
I mean, both of us just sitting down to do this podcast about anxiety had a lot of anxiety.
Yes. It's interesting. It's I don't know. It's very weird because I don't know if like you ever felt that too, but like going back to where it was like I did a lot of things that were bad for my mental health, but I didn't realize were going to be long term.
Yes.
Until now. I didn't realize like how much shit, like opening up the can of worms of this year of how I actually feel about my life and childhood and what happened. Because I never really processed it all. I just kind of like half processed it.
It just you experienced it.
I experienced it. And then like when it all started coming down on me when I had nothing else to do but think.
Yep.
But I was just thinking about it. I wasn't actually trying to do anything about it. And so when I actually decided to open the can of worms of what started this whole life of mine and like
trying to do something
about it, it was a whole nother type of anxiety because you have to go back and almost feel all those emotions again.
Yeah.
To really grieve and process them, to really understand that.
To reprocess it.
Exactly.
It's
to reprocess it in the right way.
Yeah, you either feel it on a daily basis as like a dull, like
COVID baby.
Like it just like keeps happening, you know? Or you can go like full force, deal with the emotions head on, and then it like eventually hurts less.
See, it's a tricky thing too, because when I first opened up about what actually happened to me when I was 5 to my therapist, it was like all these memories came back that I don't have recollection of. I didn't have and it was almost like maybe it was a false memory, but it wasn't, because I could remember it like vividly, almost all the bad things that happened after.
Yeah. And that's how our brains work. It's fucking nuts.
And it's weird because you feel it like it's the first time again.
Yeah.
And what you're supposed to do is think about it of how you would have done it differently. Almost like retraining your brain to, this emotion is happening again right now, but I am in a different place where I can control it. And you almost have to fight yourself because your brain's going to want to say you can't. What is this? This hurts.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I didn't process it right the first time again when I talked about it. And I went through like a week of just like, I don't feel good. I stopped even going to class for a week. I just was like, this sucks. I'd rather just fucking die. And I wasn't eating. I stopped eating for like 3 days after I opened it up. It was just like I was trying to do whatever I could do.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard, like, that's something else that I didn't say earlier. One of the symptoms is that, like, it's very hard for me to eat when I'm anxious. Like, it's hard to have an appetite. It's hard to want to eat. And it's hard to actually, like, force yourself to eat when you're in anxiety.
It is. It's so, like, I don't think about.
Which, like, for me, I mean, I know that you can relate to, but, like, for me, being on the other end of my eating disorder, like trying to be proactive about it, like when I get anxious and I'm feeling like I can't eat, like that shit gets to me. It gets to me hard because it's like so from when I was in therapy, just to kind of like sum this up a little bit, after therapy and after having tools, I finally got to a place where I had processed enough of the stuff that was like making me go back to anxiety, to where I was like, you know what, this is actually an uncomfortable feeling and I don't know why I've been so comfortable with it for so long. Yep. And I started actually working on my anxiety, trying to feel something different. And I learned that my anxiety is actually trying to tell me something. Like, it's a call to action a little bit. Like, it's asking you to do something to turn that off in a way. Or, like, it's telling you, hey, something's not right with this. Like, I've noticed a lot with me when I have a conversation that I need to have with somebody that I've been putting off. Or even just like the thought of needing to have the conversation, it'll start making me feel anxious.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, I need to have that conversation.
Exactly.
And that's the only thing, like having the conversation, once I'm able to put my thoughts out there, even if it doesn't go the best, to me, that's enough to kind of put it to rest. Like, it's enough for me to move to the next, like out of anxiety.
Well, that's what's been happening to me all week, is I've been wanting to talk to my boss about his evaluation of me. And it's like, I want to know what he has to say so I can be a better employee since it's my first job. But it's like, I've been psyching myself out of like, what if he does say something negative? Okay, fuck
then,
it.
Like, you want the feedback.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like my brain is like, I just get anxious about it. And then I just want to get it over with, but I'm too scared to go actually talk to him. I had multiple opportunities and I was like,
but it's hard. It's hard to say it in the moment that you're feeling it. Like, it's hard to just do it.
Yes.
You want to,
coming in on the pod. Husband coming in for a real quick
I
side
have
bit.
it set to where you got to be like this far away. But remember that any adjustment you make is going to.
So check it out. Good? Sound quality good?
Yeah, you sound
Better
good.
Here?
Mm-hmm.
So how I got around that, I used to think that way when I was younger. How I got around that is that whether I ask him or not, he's going to think that way of me negatively, right? So I might as well ask him for his opinion, and if it's negative, I can fix it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, he just gets to sit there and think of me like that, and I don't do anything about it to change his mind.
That's true. I guess, yeah, that's true, because regardless of, like you said, regardless of what you...
That's how I hype myself up to go into hard conversations, because either way, I'm already thought of like that, so I might as well work to change it.
Exactly. Okay, I guess I wasn't thinking about that. Was like...
And a lot of the times when you actually do have that conversation, it ends up being like a positive thing, because our overthinking of the situation is somewhat what causes the anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And we're more prone to thinking negative thoughts. So the chances are there's like raving reviews like, yeah, he was a hard worker. He did all, like, chances are it's actually a good thing, but you're just worried.
That's exactly what Dad was saying, was like, when I was telling him that's what I wanted to do, he literally was like, that's a good idea. Why haven't you asked yet? And I was like, I pussed out. He's like, that makes sense. And he said the same thing to us. He said, if you ask or you don't, he's going to think the same thing. Mm-hmm. Like, you could ask him and have the opportunity to change what he thinks about you, or you couldn't ask him and everything that he thought is right.
Yeah.
It's true.
Like, feedback is productive whether it feels good or not.
Exactly. And
I think that's another thing that anxiety has taught me, is to be more comfortable with uncomfortable conversations, because now I've learned that because I don't like the feeling of anxiety anymore, I go out of my way to not feel it. Like, now I'm more encouraged to have those hard conversations because it turns it off. Like, I want, like, the more that you practice having those hard conversations with anxiety, the more...
I might yak.
Oh, no. Do you need the garbage can? Well, you just wait until there's not throw up sounds happening. Oh, my God.
So when I get like that, sometimes when I actually do have anxiety to the point where I start to get sick, my rage will take over, where I will go into the bathroom and try to touch my uvula with my tongue to dry heave. And if nothing happens, I'm like, good. I told you, you're not going to throw up. Shut up. Go have that conversation. Because I get pissed. Like, I hate feeling nauseous. I hate it. And you ever been sick as a kid where before school, Mom, I'm a throw up type thing? And then you throw up once and you're fine for the rest of the day, and then your mom says you were faking?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that followed me throughout pretty much my adulthood, where you throw up once and you feel better getting rid of it. And so the way I would see it is either A, I'm anxious and I throw up and I move on, or B, I was never going to throw up in the first place and my anxiety is being a coward.
Yeah, it's a nice way to just test it, to see, like, who are you?
Yeah,
what do you want?
You only have to do that once or twice. After a while, when you start recognizing, and then it's like a threat. You look at anxiety in the face and you say, remember what happened last time? You gonna throw up, or you gonna shut up?
Well, I think that's actually a good little tidbit, because I know that some of the times that Ashley's experienced anxiety, it's like, oh my God, this thing is going to happen. Like, I'm not going to be okay. Like, like, oh, I'm getting lightheaded and I'm getting like tunnel vision or something like that. And I've heard suggestions to like get up and like spin around in a fucking circle or something like that. Like, okay, is that how you want to feel? Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Just
That's
kind of
how
like
you want to throw down
like
home
hard
slice, that's how we're
skirting
gonna throw down.
your panic attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so far, in that moment, I personify my anxiety and make them the enemy. So that way it's a little bit of a, like I'm decentralizing myself from it or detaching myself from my anxiety. And now I can look at it from a more rational perspective. And then once I've detached, I see my anxiety as something or someone that's trying to stop me from getting to my goal.
Yeah.
And I'm either going to have a conversation with that person about it or we're going to fight. So it's going to go one of two ways. And after you do that 2, 3, 4 times, you don't really have to be that extreme anymore. It's just like I remember being in this situation and I didn't need to throw up last time. You know, I wasn't going to pass out. I was fine. I'm feeling the exact same way. I'm going to be fine. Like sit with it for a second or two, gather yourself, and then go do it.
Yep.
And you don't have to be as extreme every single time. Just once or twice to kind of put the anxiety in its place. And then after a while, you start to see the signs of anxiety and then how to work through them.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's true.
Anxiety makes you feel powerless, right?
In some sense, yes.
Yeah, in some sense.
Like anxiety attacks, very much powerless.
And facing the anxiety the way that I have kind of gives my power back and lets me know that I have control over my anxiety. It's not going to run rampant if I have anything to say about it. Now, anxiety attacks are a bit different because I don't have a whole lot of anxiety attacks throughout my life.
Well, and you don't have like
recognize.
everyday anxiety, really.
Correct. Or when I do, I show it who's boss. I don't like feeling powerless, and I certainly don't like my mind letting me feel powerless.
Yeah.
And so when I detach from my anxiety, it now kind of enables my mind to think free of the anxiety and think that this person is trying to hold me down and I can actually do something about it.
It gives you power.
It gives me power. As opposed to this thing is just a mind leech that's attached to me that I can do nothing about.
See,
I don't like sitting with that.
I take a much more caring approach to my anxiety in the sense of like, oh, this is trying to teach me something. Like, this is trying to show me something. And you're like, this fucker is in the way of me having a good day. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean,
it's a very different idea.
I look back, like in the moment facing the anxiety, I put it down and then I go do whatever it was that was making me anxious. And then I do like an after action report, you know, where you,
so how was that?
I was like, so why did I get anxious? And once I've figured out what the anxiety was trying to say was making them nervous, so to speak, again, personifying the anxiety, then I can stack up to what happened in that conversation and was the anxiety correct? Was the anxiety predicting the future? Or was it all for naught and it was just in my head in the first place?
My anxiety is about having the conversation, period.
Yeah.
Like, that makes a lot of sense, though.
Yeah. Well, and like in my profession, I don't like people. I'm not a big people person. I like individuals, but people as a whole scare me. I'm not a fan of big crowds, and I chose a field where I have to seek people out and talk to them.
Yeah.
And so every single interaction at an open house has a little anxiety attached to it. But it's kind of like what I was saying earlier in the podcast. This conversation is going to happen whether I like it or not. And if I don't have it, I don't make money. Yeah. And I like money. So let's go have this conversation.
Let's not let this anxiety win.
And after having the hundreds of conversations that I've had, I don't really feel as anxious anymore. Still, when I get thrown for a curveball or I come across someone who is in a different league than me, like an investor, for example, who knows that I'm talking out of my ass, then I feel a little bit out of place and then I get anxious after the fact. But For the most part, I'm okay making mistakes in conversation.
Yeah.
And even if I misspeak, I will stop the conversation, say, oh, sorry, hold on, I misspoke. Old data or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I find that most people don't care.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the anxiety that I have around conversing, maybe it's the same for you, is that I'm worried about how people perceive me.
Oh, for sure.
It's not that I'm anxious of having the conversation. It's, oh, are they going to perceive me like I'm stupid?
For me, it's like I would just want to be received well. Like I want
Yeah.
to be understood.
Exactly.
This is a good time to share this little post that I found. It says, don't write to be liked. Don't write to be right. Don't write to be understood. Write to become emotionally literate, accepting of yourself and free. Write to move a culture. Write a philosophical change. Write to revolutionize your pain. I think that's very deep.
So what you asked me to look up the definition of revolutionize?
Yes. Which the definition of that's such a deep word. Revolutionize.
I found this on the web.
Shh. Basically, to completely change something so that it is much better.
Okay.
To revolutionize pain. Like, that's what this whole podcast is about. But yeah, I keep getting stuck in this, like, ooh, nobody listens to it. Nobody, like, it doesn't fucking matter.
Well, we
like,
went
it's
through this
about
the other day,
me.
didn't we?
Yeah.
Where you were upset because you
Yeah.
didn't have any listeners, and I was telling you that you didn't start this to have listeners.
Yeah.
You just assumed
did
you'd
it
have
to
listeners,
revolutionize
and so
my
you were
pain. Like,
making
that's-
problems of other stuff.
Yeah.
And then when a new problem showed up, you were all
Mhm.
hurt about it.
Yeah.
But I think after you connected with the roots as to why you started this podcast, it got a little bit better for you.
Yeah, for sure. I did it to be able to like share an experience like this because if somebody else has anxiety or has experienced anxiety, it's like you don't have to live with it forever, and it's okay if you're not ready to like fight against it at this moment. Like at the end of the day, we all get through it when we get through it, and like your relationship with it can change.
Yeah.
Like I used to purposely give myself anxiety, and now I purposely go leaps and bounds out of my way to like turn off anxiety, to address anxiety, to like be curious about it,
Yeah.
see what it's trying to teach me. So, yeah.
I think I've reached kind of a flow state with my anxiety. I don't have a whole lot. I don't know if we've been over how anxiety shows up with the two of us in a different podcast, but I'm not a very anxious person. And when I do have anxiety, up until recently, I didn't even recognize the signs of it until I met you. I think we just talked about this today, actually. And now that I recognize it and I've confronted it, now I've reached a flow state where when anxiety shows up, it's not so much of a crippling issue anymore. It's like when it shows up, I can ask why it's there.
Yes.
And not freak out.
Yeah. It's not like, oh my God, this again.
And then whatever the answer is, unless it's a super pressing thing, I'll just say, all right, we'll put a pin in it. We'll figure that out after the fact. We got some shit to do real quick. And we'll just go handle this stuff and then reassess.
Yeah.
But I've reached this state of mind where when I'm anxious, I feel like I'm kind of floating a little bit, but not in an out-of-body experience type of way. It's like I feel the anxiety coursing through me, and I'm just kind of flowing with it for a second. And
It's
then
kind of like adrenaline.
a little bit like adrenaline. And while I'm in conversation with someone, or usually it happens in conversation because that's part of my job, and that's where the anxiety shows up the most,
Right. Same.
is in that conversation, or I'll be having a conversation, and then on the side, I'm trying to flow with my anxiety so that it doesn't, A, show, and B, it can quiet down for a second so I can finish my conversation.
Yeah.
And once the conversation's over, then anxiety and I can have a chat.
Yeah.
But until then, like, just hold the phone. We'll have plenty of time to decompress after. Just let's get through this conversation. And then pretty soon, it's just gone. And then I get to analyze it afterwards.
I think mine is very different than that, because I'm like,
I know yours
the
is
moment anxiety shows up, I'm like, what are you here for?
different. And then you start shaking like a
Like-
chihuahua in 80
like
degree weather
Hey,
and sweating.
rude. But like, I'm with anxiety the whole time.
Yeah.
It's like a student came up to me and was like, teacher, this is happening. And I'm like, okay, we got to figure this out.
Yeah.
Okay, go back to your seat. That kind of stuff. But this is getting kind of long.
Yeah.
Bones, do you have anything else to say? Well, just to wrap this up, if you are experiencing anxiety, know that you are not alone. A lot of us end up carrying it for a large amount of our lives, and you don't have to keep existing with it the same way that you have. If it's not working for you, I encourage you to, try something else. Try something different. And with that, the Bones, thanks for being on the podcast today. Jerry, thanks for being a surprise guest on the podcast.
We're coming at you pre-recorded from COVID Central.
Yeah, COVID Central.
That was not on purpose. I had to cough.
Well, with that, thanks for listening. Mental Odyssey is a Dream and Do podcast, produced and edited by yours truly. The music is owned by Chill Hop, and this song is Velocities by Sleepy Fish. Go check them out. Thanks for being here.